Um,
Hello, Assalamualaikum.
We should definitely put that on.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and this is episode number 19, Tailored Suits, Entrepreneurship, and the Immigrant Story with Aarish Mustafa of the Tailored Foundation.
Sometimes just analyzing it too much can also work against taking that leap.
Today, we're very lucky to be joined by one of my very good friends, Aarish Mustafa, who is based out of Chicago, Illinois, and runs the Tailored Foundation, a company that makes tailored suits for men, known for offering bespoke and made-to-measure suits for gentlemen. Today, inshallah, we'll be discussing tailored suits, how he built his business, and entrepreneurship. We'll be speaking about the relationship with work and mindset for business and how that has evolved between the four of us. We'll be speaking about how he got into tailored suits and how he built his business out of nothing. And we'll also be speaking about how one can go about building a business, the lessons they can learn from the mistakes along the way, and whether money and wealth and chasing it is a bad thing, and how and if we can escape or refine that mentality. We'll also be speaking about successful businesses and how one can build. Salam guys, Aarish, thank you so much for joining us here on this episode of 786 Boulevard. Really appreciate you taking from your time. Wonderful to have you on. And thank you for joining Hasnain and Ali as well. I'm sure you're going to take us to school about entrepreneurship and tailored suits. So it should be, inshallah, a fun conversation. Really appreciate you and your time. Of course, we're going to get into your craft, inshallah, in a bit. But before we do that, I just wanted to start by asking everyone here, so not just you, but also Hasnain and Ali, about your relationship with work and mindset for business and how it's evolved over the past few years. The reason I asked that is because all of us here are freelancers, except for Hasnain, who works for other people. But all of us here,
Listen,
all of us here are very business minded. You know, we care a lot about business. We care a lot about growing our business. We care a lot about finances, which inshallah we'll have a conversation about all of these things in the podcast. But just starting off and speaking about our relationship with work. So Aarish, I'll start with you. How has your relationship with work and your mindset for business evolved over the past, let's say, 3 to 5 years?
Evolution-wise, I would say, yeah, but in a much different space now. I think when I started, I was kind of early 20s, right out of school, and you are, especially out of the U.S., a lot of usually people come out of debt, and
Right.
Ambitions tend to be short-sighted, I would say. So in terms of you're looking for just kind of a get rich quick type of a lot of schemes, just hit big and go from there. And as you kind of just grow into it, and as it happened with me with my brand, you just want to invest a lot in your brand and relationships that come along with it. So just have a longer term view, I think. And so that's kind of how it's evolved. And obviously there hasn't been a switch on that. It's just been over time, as I think about it, how I used to think in the beginning, and how I used to, and what sense I think now.
So it's basically like a lot of patience, persistence, and building. Something I guess which is lacking from anyone who leaves college and has that kind of mindset of I've been going into education my whole life and now I just want to work and make money. But you come out and you're left with a lot of debt and no one willing to give you a job. I guess which is such a harsh place to find yourself in. Ali, I want to ask you the same question because you've gone through a lot of changes over the past year, let alone few years. How has your relationship with work and your mindset for business evolved over the past few years?
I think it's changed a lot from where it was even last year to even 6 months ago, especially with the pandemic. And prior to that, I was at one point working jobs like Hasnain, that's all you can do.
Hasnain, we all feel sorry for you.
So
no, let me speak next, and I'll tell you what's going on. Don't worry.
So now the world is changing completely. Like, for example, right now I'm sitting in Colombia. He's in New York. You're in, I think, Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Northern
suburbs. Yeah.
So Aarish technically is closer to Wisconsin than you are Illinois, right?
Yeah,
What's the story
10
there?
minutes
Right.
from Wisconsin.
Okay, he says he's from Chicago. Technically, he's 10 minutes from Wisconsin. So
Listen,
he's from
for
Wisconsin.
the sake of his pride, he's from Chicago. All right, we'll just stick to that. Let's not say he's from Wisconsin. Let's just say he's from Chicago. With done deal. Move on.
So business overall has evolved, and so if you don't evolve with the times and how it's changing, you're going to be stuck. You're going to be stuck trying to do the same things the old ways that don't necessarily continue to work as you grow. So as Aarish said, like you evolve into doing different things from where you started, because when you start, you have a particular vision, but that's not necessarily the case as you grow. So to answer your question, I'm sitting here in Colombia and my business is running in New York and I'm running it from here.
Yeah. I think that the pandemic definitely changed everything, because it was kind of it made everyone realize that you can work from home, and not just work from home, but run a business from home, and do so much from while being not physically present, especially in this age where it's so easy to communicate like we are now over Zoom in 3 different time zones, which I think is very interesting. So Hasnain, just to give the audience a bit of context, me and Ali were kind of rocking your boat, because I've basically recently decided to transition to full-time freelance. I was employed full-time with the Muslim Vibe and doing freelance on the side. Now I'm transitioning to full-time freelance, and Ali is also like got his own business going, but you are employed. You're on a paycheck. You're on a salary. You're on a 9-to-5 job. You have to wear a suit and tie and come in on time, I'm guessing, and you have timestamps when you walk into the office, and 1 hour lunch break. So how does that feel, and what are you thinking?
I will not say what I said in the WhatsApp group, but I will say this. I work my 9 to 5. I have a healthy salary, and it, alhamdulillah, supports my artistic visions on the side. It's okay to have a 9 to 5. I do have financial freedom, alhamdulillah. I would say the 786 podcast financially is backed by somebody on this committee. So if you want projects to be done, then you need that 9 to 5. But to cut the story short, I need my job to fund my films, if that makes sense. So my passion and my pride in my filmmaking is funded by my financial freedom from my job. So it is tough, but I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for that financial freedom.
So for you, it's like being employed full-time is what kind of helps you live your lifestyle outside of that 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
And Nusrat is pretty expensive, and I go there like twice a month. So
I think for me, and I think for everyone, it's really different. And honestly, like when it comes to freelancing, I'll be real with you guys. I was inspired by Aarish. I was inspired by Ali, and seeing you guys, take control of your finances and really have that freedom. I mean, I call it freedom. It is a scary thing to be a freelancer. Aarish, me and you've had so many conversations about being in charge of whether or not the money comes in. You're not guaranteed a salary every month, so there is a danger there. But for me, it's just like I realized about myself that my character is one that can't kind of fit into a system. I can't, even though I did have a lot of freedom with my job, I can't come in at a certain time, leave at a certain time, work 8 hours a day. I prefer to work project to project, based client to client, and have that variation. For me, that just works best, and just be in charge of my own schedule from that perspective. And it sounds petty sometimes to some people, but for me, it's just it's so important. So was that a factor for you, Aarish, when you started your business, or was it more just about the craft itself?
Right. So yeah, I think I definitely transitioned over initially as a part-time, just a side gig, and my a lot of my inspiration for my business did come from my 9 to 5. So from that perspective, so I think 9 to 5, just having that, especially in the beginning, is very much it's a luxury, for sure. But like having going through it and just spending enough time in it, and I have a finance and accounting background as well. So we try to look at things from that perspective, and
Hasnain also works in finances. Yeah.
Oh, got it. So yeah,
look, Hasnain, he did it. You can do it too.
Listen, all right. We have 2 different trajectories.
But yeah, just that gives you the confidence, and just getting a just looking at things a little bit analytically, and just going through it year over year. Sometimes, like especially in our business, we tend to have we're cyclical in terms of we have cycles where summers, and right now it's also not as busy as other years, but December is a busy time for us. But and I had a especially slow November. Nothing to be shy about, COVID and with everything going on. But I know overall it's gonna even out. So, but year one and year two, you don't know that.
Yeah,
I think
I think like your financial background, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because when I'm sure Ali will know as well, is that there is a massive amount of accounting involved, a massive amount of money checking involved. And the thing is, for me, over the past 2 years or so, we've had this conversation before. I've been obsessed with like counting what I spend and counting what I'm due to spend this year, and making sure that I have money set aside for it. It's like an obsession of mine. Like I'm literally, and I'm almost the third finance guy in this group. I'm just so obsessed with I'm counting that money and seeing where it's going and making sure I have enough, and seeing how I can grow it. I'm obsessed with like I guess with keeping my finances in order. And you have to be that if you're going to be a full-time freelancer or run your own business, right? I feel like without it, you can just crash and fail. Ali, how important is it for you? Because I know I don't know how personal you want to get, but you started your own business like last year, right? So no, was it 2 years ago? Or?
I've had it for a while. This is one of my businesses, yeah.
Okay, one of your businesses. So I know that you were employed. You were head of a project at one point, and then you started your own thing. So how important was that, being aware of numbers and being aware of finances and managing that? How important is it to be money savvy, basically, when you start and run your own business?
It's very important to know what you're doing, because you have to. You're doing it because it's your passion, right? So, like for example, for ours, for suits. So and you would know, and I guess Snan wouldn't know, but like maybe Nouri, you would as well.
I know too.
When you're doing something that's your own. Oh, actually, he would know with his films. Okay, so in his films, he would know. So when you're doing something that's your own, even if you make a little bit less than what you would have made somewhere else, you feel more passionate about it, so you're more into it. But going back to your question, it's very important to know how much money's coming in, how much you're spending, how much you're actually saving, because it's easy to get lost in it. It's easy to see, for example, 100 sales come in a month, and you're excited, and the next month it might be like 20 or 30. So you have to keep, even keel with it, and then also make sure that you're calculating everything, calculating your cost of the product, calculating your cost of marketing, calculating cost of shipping. There's so many different costs that go into it, and you have to make sure you calculate all of that. And then what's left after that is what you're actually making, not the whole chunk that's coming in.
Yeah.
So you have to keep in mind that that's what you have to live off of, not the whole amount that's coming. So there's a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
I think I've heard of it, yeah.
Yes, no?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, you might want to read it. It talks about how if you get $100, live off of $70. Take 10% and put it into active capital, which will help you grow your business, and 10% in passive capital, where you don't actually have to do anything, but it grows, right? For example, stocks. And then 10% you give back. So you have to learn to live off of that 70%. And if you continue doing that, the passive capital that you have there sort of becomes your safety net, if you will. If you have a rainy day, you can count on that. Yeah. So when you're doing these numbers, just make sure you sort of work that out for yourself.
Yeah,
I can help you if you do.
Yeah. So
one thing I'd like to add quickly,
go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
No, I was going to say, so coming from, and maybe Stan, you'll agree with this, but there's definitely a sense of like analysis paralysis that a lot of people suffer from as well when you're first kind of going into it. So I think it's I think for anyone that's kind of making that transition, as you may be, Nouri, sometimes when you kind of get into numbers, which I've had, just with other decisions too, sometimes just analyzing it too much can also work against taking that leap.
Yeah.
So
for sure. And I think one thing that Ali mentioned, which is nice, is that even if you're earning less, sometimes when it's your own ownership, there is a sense of kind of pride and value there. So even like I have been freelancing for the past 2 years alongside my full-time job, and there's some things that I've invested in, like for example the laptop and some minor equipment But like whenever I invested in it, and I'm starting to learn that now, because obviously now that I'm freelancing, I've got to buy my own cameras and lenses and stuff. And as you're aware, they're very expensive, right? But even though that stuff is expensive, there is a sense of, okay, I've invested in this. There's a sense of like ownership there. Even though you spent money on it, it feels to you like your own baby, your own investment that you're going to use to take your business forward, right? So that is so important. So again, like it's not for everyone, and there are a lot of like pros and cons when it comes to it. But you know, I think for me, it's always been a fascination of mine. And then, I don't know, maybe in a year I'll come to Ali when it's failed and ask him for a job.
The only thing I'm thinking about right now is Nouri no longer buying any more sneakers moving forward, because now he has to budget so much.
I'll be honest
All
with
his
you.
Instagram stories are going to be done. No more sneakers.
I'll be honest with you.
Starbucks.
Oh my God. I'll be honest with you. I did budget for the year, and I did not include a sneaker budget this year because I'm like, nope. No, now you're on your own now. There's no one coming to save you. Hasnain, sorry, you had a point.
Yeah, I mean, Aarish already spoke about it, but you know, one thing I wanted to throw out there is, I think Aarish and Ali can speak to this. Is just that we all start with that 9 to 5 because there's skill sets and habits that'll teach you to make the transition easier. I know Ali, I don't know, I don't want to get personal, but Ali also had a 9 to 5 job. I mean, he has an amazing story of when he came to New York. Don't want to get too much into it. That's his personal problem that I want to share, but I'll let him do. But you know,
I was actually going to ask Ali about that later on.
Yeah. So like,
it's an inspiring story.
You know, like, you know, if the audience is listening to this, and maybe the audience might be a 9 to 5 people, might be freelance people, but you know, working that 9 to 5, yeah, you have a boss, you have to come in, but you know, as you work your way up, and alhamdulillah, like I've worked my way up to where I can, you know, I shouldn't even say this because my boss might listen, but like I can be in the office and work on my film stuff at the same time, you know. But then, you know, that's also comes with like that financial security, and I think that the skill sets you learn, the people you meet, goes a long way once you decide to go do your own thing. And you know, Aarish, what do you think about that? Ali, what do you think about that? I mean, that's kind of my perspective on it.
Yeah, I want to make sure that it's clear to the audience that we're not saying for you to jump out of your 9 to 5 and go do
it,
something.
guys. Do it. Do it. Don't think twice.
Do that. That's not what we're saying. And again, it's not for everyone. Everyone has a different skill set. So for some people, 9 to 5 may be where it's at. And for others, it's, you know, freelancing or having your own business. And it's not easy. It's very, very difficult, as Aarish will tell you. And Nouri will soon find out.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
No, for sure. And I think it's, as I spoke about, it is just a luxury. And, you know, you can gain, if you are, especially for someone who is looking to make that transition, you can do a lot of things just with numbers, you know, having, you know, just talk to people that have made that jump, and, you know, and you can make better moves if you have capital coming in, especially if you have, you know, family responsibilities, or other different responsibilities. And you can be, when you are thinking with a more stable mind, you'll always make better decisions. So I think the 9 to 5, you know, does allow you to do that. And once you kind of learn that, and you make those decisions and you spend some time in it, I think it's a really good formula for transitioning into it, if that's eventually your goal.
I mean, I know in America there is one big benefit to 9 to 5, and me and you spoke about this, and we will get into tailored suits soon. But I just wanted to ask you this because it kind of came to me. Healthcare for you guys is a big deal, right? And I don't know, like I'm sure Hasnain's got a fantastic healthcare plan. I saw him smiling away.
It's expensive though.
But the thing is, like, how exactly does it work? I'm just like, I have no idea how it works. So if I'm a freelancer or have my own business in America, how does healthcare work, and how does a 9 to 5 perhaps benefit me more?
Yeah, you basically have to do what Ali does and go to a different country and get work done and come back. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, it's that's a pretty significant part of my decision, you know, in terms of keeping affordable healthcare around. So especially when you are a new business and you're strapped for cash, and you know you need to pay, you know, it could be for a family or a couple easily, you know, $16,000, $17,000, $18,000 a year. And you know, so that's a common number. It's not that conservative, I would say. So depending if you want decent coverage. So, you know, it's, again, a benefit again of having a 9 to 5 is you can get that for significantly cheaper. Just work more hours. When you don't have capital to invest in a business, the capital that you can put in is more hours, right? That's essentially what you're doing, building it up from from that direction.
So
So
when you're employed, like, just so I understand, it's part of your salary, it's a perk, or how does it? I know it differs business to business, but typically, how does it work?
I would say it's subsidized. So you get better rates, and then you're paying towards it in part of your paycheck on a month-to-month basis, but it's much cheaper than if you were to buy it on your own. There's a lot of things you can do there's co-ops and the different groups and different organizations that allow you to get it for a little bit cheaper. But for the most part, if the healthcare coverage that you're used to, especially from your 9 to 5, you're gonna pay up.
I do want to get into your craft now, and I'll start off with the opening question of this, which is, what does a suit say about a man? Aarish, give us the philosophical response.
Right. So obviously suits have evolved significantly in the workspace. They will continue to decline in the workspace, and but we are going towards a more casual society for the most part, especially with the clients that I deal with and things. So suits have now become more and more so a means of expression, and a means of art in that sense, which they've always been, but they've lost they've lost some of their purpose when it comes to being a part of the working world, right? So we concentrate on some clients. For example, I work with realtors. I work with a lot of like lawyers. Work with a lot of salesmen, which continue to kind of have that be a part of their the work week. But in terms of that, it's become more of an expression, and it's to often you wear it to honor events, particular events, and you also wear it now to when you really need to look your best. So I think that it's a very shifting purpose, and but it's I think there will obviously biased when I say this. I think there always will be room for suits, just because it's such a core part of the Western attire. If you think about it, not to think about it too morbidly, but for example, we do a lot of suits, make a lot of suits that are for people that are preparing to go to funerals, right? It's that's appropriateness there. We do a lot of suits from different, if you think about it from a life cycle perspective, we do a lot of suits for guys that are coming into the workforce for when they're interviewing, and then people, and then on the younger side, and then we also have people that are attending a lot of funerals and things of that nature. So it will always shift in and out, but currently, as it's kind of projecting to be, it'll just be more of an expression piece versus more of an essential, and we're comfortable with that. We're doing different things in our business to evolutionize that as well, and just to kind of stay in touch with the trends. But yeah, that's kind of where we stand.
I think it's so interesting that you say that, because it's true. Like, I want to call it the kind of Google working culture, where everything's like much more laid back, and it's not like suit and tie to work. The only person who has a suit and tie here going to work is Hasnain. And
I wish I could be in a hoodie all day like you, Nouri, but unfortunately I can't.
I'll be completely honest with you, and Aarish knows this. Like, I've begun personally. I don't like suits. I really don't like suits. I know they look great on guys, but for me, my relaxed personality just needs to wear oversized hoodies and nothing else. That's all I kind of care about. And even by the way,
basically,
even by when I recite. So reciting, as you know, when you're going to like a milad event or whatever, the typical thing to wear is a suit. I'm now moving towards shalvars and stuff, because I just find that more fitting for me. Again, like it's kind of like a personal preference, but I do concede that suits look great, and probably need to buy another one.
So we're not going to ask you the question, what does a suit mean to you? Never mind. We'll just skip right over you.
Don't ask me that question.
Did you hear what he said? He said the salwar and the kameez is becoming more of his style. That sounds like an uncle answer.
That's like, that's my gray hair speaking, bro. My gray hair speaking. Fatherhood.
I will say though, they continue suits like in some of the more important days and moments of your life. They have a role in still, and and that is something that we try to concentrate on. If you talk about our sales from that perspective, we actually do segment things based off of that. Like interview, as I kind of mentioned, wedding, close family members' wedding. So I mean, these are again, if you even look back through your camera reel, you'll see most of the pictures you take are in the bigger moments of your life, right? So it's gonna be generally it'll play a bigger role there versus it does in everyday life. So it's become more of a special thing, which it helps us be. Our craft is very much tied with detail as well. So you just have to kind of roll with the punches in that aspect and just kind of understand that people are not going to wear them on a day-to-day basis, and that's okay.
Yeah, but they're still not going to go away for a really long time, which is very interesting because it reminds me of like Jordan's growing up, right? Like we always wanted to get those fresh pair of kicks, but even growing up, we also like my favorite movie is Catch Me If You Can, and he's always dressed sharp in his suits and whatnot when he's like playing. Like growing up, it wasn't just J's for me that I wanted to aspire to get. It was also like suits. It was like those things that go like, yo, like I'm looking at this guy, I'm like, yo, I want to be like him, because that suit is like a symbol of, well, when I was younger, it was like a symbol of success to me, right? It was just like, wow, like he's in a suit, like I aspire to be that. And then when you grow up and you go to Suit Supply, like I do, to get my suits from, it's just like, all right, I'm just gonna get like, I'm sorry, listen, I don't know, man. I just go to Suit Supply and I just pick them up from there, and I pick up my suits from there. And so, now it's more like it's like a watch, like you don't have to wear a watch every single day. Watch is a luxury thing. If you can afford it, you get it. If you can't, it's not a deal. And I love my watches too. And suits are not gonna go away. I see myself buying probably more and more suits just because. For me, it's attached to a childhood memory that I aspired, that I achieved, right? So it's going to be more of that.
Yeah,
so
and it is an armor in a way, right?
Why did you decide to work with suits? What inspired you on that?
So I actually kind of talked about it a little bit earlier in terms of my start of my career, but I was in the investment consulting space.
Right.
So here you think about it, just starting out, you're making entry-level salary, right? And then you're sitting in a room. It's generally we had a pretty small group of people, and we're managing in that space. You're managing a lot of assets, and you are in rooms with people that are wearing, very, very expensive and nice suits. So already kind of had an interest with fashion generally prior to that. But when you it kind of sparked it. And then, so I mean, then you want suits like that, just no other ways about it. And then I saw that, okay, I was like, I'm not going to spend my monthly paycheck on this, so there's going to be some, and so that's why I thought there was a need in the space that I was in for people that want to do custom suits at a price that's appropriate for everyone. So, obviously it's not going to be able to compete with off the rack, but really good suits, and just be able to do that at a really good price. And I kind of knew that just a little bit from the market. I have tailoring in my background in terms of my family. So, and that is, I just knew it could be done. It's a very service heavy business. If you find the right space, if you implement enough of, not even technology, I would say, just techniques and things like that, you can, you can put out a product there, which will, I'm not going to say that our suit is going to compare to like a $10,000 Brioni suit, for example, in that sense, but you can, you can kind of bridge that gap a little bit and offer a really good product to someone at a much better price.
I would definitely say, I mean, you've made me 2 suits before, and I can say without doubt, like the quality and craftsmanship and design and everything in it is just so, it's something you'd expect to get at a really high-end a tailor. So you can see the craftsmanship and the love that goes into it, and I think that's the key there. You can see that when you've made it. It's not just I know we're speaking about it from a business perspective, and about how you want to grow it and how you saw maybe a gap in the market, but there is that sense of every suit you make. And yeah, you can tell with any suit that I see that you've made, that you post on Instagram or we see like people wearing them, we can see the love and energy that's gone into that suit, right? There's a bit of care
Right.
into there, which I think is so important. So when it comes to the actual craft, like when you set out to design a suit or make a suit, what's the process like? And like in terms of like the emotions you have when you're making it, like what comes to your mind when you set out to make a suit for someone?
Right. So I think a lot of that can be tied to just the detailing in the in the process completely. We are suits how they're generally worn. There is now they've gotten obviously a little bit flashier. You have a little bit more patterns that are bolder. Different. You said different even shading or the sheen of the fabric, for example, right? You see a lot of you'll see, for example, on NBA draft night, you'll see suits with glitter and things of that nature, right? So that's still relatively new to the suit world. So, but in terms of but it's all about the kind of the details in the suit that makes it a little bit perfect. For me, it's about kind of reading the person in terms of what their needs are, right? And a lot of times what you pay for money for as suits wise is not the things that are apparent, right? Obviously you pay for the fabric, you pay for the buttons and different customizations and little pops of colors here and there, but you pay for like the little for example, posture adjustments. You pay for someone has, like, for example, everyone has a very unique posture, which way their arms lean. It's a little bit of maybe more of a technical conversation. I don't want to bore you guys with it, but that's what gets us excited and gets us motivated. So when I finish a product with when everything comes out clean like that, and then that may not even align with the client's vision, because people want slim fit now, and which is in terms of, we have to think about things from a photography perspective, right? How our product looks and things like that, and that doesn't always marry each other. You want to look so it's about those little, capturing all those little details, like where your button stance is, how your arms are rotated, and to kind of get that as clean as possible. That's what it's all about. And some of those things are, for example, you have to look at it with a little bit of a technical eye, not just with it's just oh my god, what an impactful suit, and that looks that really catches my eye. So that's kind of the balance.
So, in the art form of making a suit, like, how long does it take you, like, to make one, simple one?
Sure. So we are, we tend to be a limited production company. We're not mass producers by any means. So in a month, I think our capacity would be between 20 to 25 suits.
Okay.
So if you think about a total of that, and generally a life cycle currently, so COVID has affected it a little bit. Fabric, in terms of it being transported, takes a little bit longer. Fabric is especially being imported from areas that have been really hit by COVID early in its stages. So we went from we used to pride ourselves after going after a 19-day production cycle. So that going to your first trial. But now that's kind of moved on to about 5 weeks.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, and it's a temporary thing, and every business has adjusted and has gone through transition. So that's kind of the challenge for us, and but yeah, you're just kind of working through that.
Yeah. I think it's crazy how many challenges COVID has presented to us. As you guys know, I run on the side a business where I sell rings on Instagram.
Plug. He's just plugging it right now.
He's plugging it.
Listen, Ali, until you get a sponsor, I'm gonna use this platform to shout out my own stuff. But the thing is, like, when it comes to other rings, like sometimes we get complaints, especially from Canada, because orders take 2 to 3 weeks to get delivered there, and the simple reason is because the border of Canada is so backlogged. It's taken about a week or two to get things through the border, and I think it's those little things that we kind of take for granted, because pre-COVID you can order something, even if it's on the other side of the world, they'll reach you within a week max. And now because of COVID, there's so many issues and just so many businesses suffering as a result. So Ali, I'll ask you this question. I'll ask Aarish as well. How did your business suffer from COVID. I think there's no shame in speaking about it because, everyone's been suffering. Every business has been suffering from COVID in one way or another, especially those businesses that are small, especially self-employed people. I know the UK government here, for example, has been pumping a lot of money into self-employed people and business and small businesses to help them stay afloat. But what kind of challenges did you face when COVID hit you, and how did you overcome them?
Man, we lost so many deals. I don't even know where to begin.
Wow.
We had so many things set up in place
So
that were supposed to happen.
But before you continue, what is it you do, just so the audience?
So now I get to plug?
Yeah, so go ahead. We're all here now.
Welcome to the show, man.
So we do advertising on the billboards in Times Square and across the country, as well as outside of the country. And we also do what's called OTT, which means over the top. So it's advertising that you see on websites, the advertising that you see that pops up on your cell phone, or even CTV, which is connected TV. So streaming video services that provide advertising. So that's what we do. And we had so many deals lined up for Times Square at that time. And one after another just kept falling apart. And I had never seen anything like it. I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Because initially when the shutdown was, I was like, oh, it's going to be a week or two max and we'll be done and we'll move on, because we've never experienced anything like this in New York City.
Right.
So when that happened, we started losing deals, we started losing clients, and we had no income coming in. And it's a moment when somebody would freak out. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do to fix this? But luckily, we also have the consulting side. So we were okay funds wise. But just the fact that a chunk of your business just like disappears and you have no control over it. So now we've recovered from it and things are picking back up and it's getting better again.
Yeah, I think it's just sorry, Hasnain, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to say a joke. It's
No,
not
please.
funny anymore.
No, okay.
It's not funny. I was going to tell the audience, disclaimer, if you start seeing ads of rings and tailored foundation, you know why now.
I told you, bro. Until Ali gets a sponsor,
FYI.
this is going to be it. We're going to plug our own stuff from now on.
By the way, if anybody wants to sponsor, contact us. There we go.
Guys, we need a sponsor, guys. Ali, I told you, you're in charge of this now. Me and Hasnain are
Hey, I'm waiting on you to give me the packages. Remember?
Hasnain, give him the packages.
Yes,
You're
thank
a
you.
finance guy. Give him the packages, please. All right, there we go. I don't know if you can see the screen. Hasnain, Ali. All right. Aarish, what challenges did you face when COVID and lockdown first hit?
Right. So I think the first one being just our supply chain just being broken. Southern Italy area, generally if you guys remember, was one of the first areas.
Right. Yeah, it got hit really
where
bad.
COVID was. Right. So, and then generally in terms of fabric wise, it's one of the capitals of the world. Right. So mills wise, and we haven't been hit. My customers, their events, everything is continuing as it is. But then I have about a 5-week lag to manage on my end in that space. So, and it's that was I would say the biggest challenge. Sales fall off, but like alhamdulillah, we'll catch up and it'll be fine and things like that. But the relationships which you've kind of garnered and worked for and attained over the years, and you feel like those are going away, I feel like that's the bigger challenge, especially in the way I like to think about things. I'd be like, it's you always thinking to yourself, hey, you should have thought about this, you should have kind of managed this better. But it's you have to kind of remind yourself it is a global pandemic. There's only so much you can do, right? So everyone's kind of going through this, and people were understanding, some weren't, and which is fine. But it's and you don't want to tell everyone everything about your business either, especially from not you guys. You guys are cool, right? But it's just like from a client relationship perspective, you want to share, you want to be as transparent as possible. But there's obviously limits there. So that I felt like was one of the bigger challenges, like financially or anything like that. We were lucky enough that we were fine and things like that, and things did catch up to us. But those are some of the relationship stuff is that's what kind of kept me up.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Sorry, guys, I'll jump in here quickly. I'm so glad you mentioned relationships, because even when it comes to like my own freelancing, I remember when I first started back in 2017. I think you were there when I was telling you about starting this whole freelance gig. One of the first things that one of the best pieces of advice is that I got early on was from a friend who looked at me in the eye and said, "Never ever miss a deadline." give a client a deadline and like stick to it by whatever means necessary. And I think in there
Mhm.
was a message like create an element of trust. And I remember a year or two in, I had a client who kind of dropped off and went and didn't come back to me, give me a call and say, look, I'll be honest with you, I've contacted 3 or 4 different videographers, and one after another, they all failed me, and you're the only guy I can trust. So that's when I realized like the trust and the relationships that you build is
Mhm.
the most is the biggest commodity that you have in a business. Just and beyond like just trust, I think it's also just having a relationship that works. Sometimes you have a client that is great, nothing wrong with them. They might even pay you well, but just sometimes the relationship doesn't really click, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So I always find myself working with people who I get on with, and also I always try to build those relationships and be likable and communicate well, and not just be like, so you're not just. I think the worst experience you can find yourself in is when you go to a restaurant or a shop and you feel like you're doing them a favor by entering that shop or that restaurant, right? I'm sure you guys have experienced that. You never want to give off
Right.
that vibe, right? You always want to be easy to work with, and I think that's very important. Hasnain, sorry I cut you off.
Um, I was gonna say, so this is going back to the COVID aspect. Yeah, COVID disrupted a lot. Basically, if we think outside of COVID, I'm just curious to know if there was any time during the lifetime of when you started the business, Irish and
Mhm.
Ali, if you want to jump in, where things got to a point where you were on the verge of like basically giving up. I'm just curious, what like how'd you manage that? I mean, you don't have to go through the whole story, but maybe some advice you can give even myself when I hit that stage of like I can't do this anymore. I want to give up. What gets you through it, and like how did you keep going? Because I find myself, especially with film work, I'll start a project and I just give up on it easily because I don't know what it is with me, and it's something that I'm working on myself with. But what can you give the audience in regards to when you hit that point of giving up?
You want to go first?
Sure. I don't mind.
Sure.
And then just an example that comes to my mind right away is like when I was still first starting out the Taylor Foundation, right? So I knew I wanted to do this. I'll be very honest, I didn't have a clear vision in mind. First
Right.
I wanted to be an online suit store, similar to like an Indochino, or one of those.
Right.
Suit
Right.
Supply
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
good example, but they're in retail now. I didn't think I'd be, taking measurements in person and providing that sort of a experiential retail type of an experience, which we do, and I'm very glad to be in it now. But just starting out, it was there's so many options with the internet and so many things you can do and so many vendors and so many people reaching out. I think what was important was for me is to make myself accountable to other people, and I know it's great to, like, for example, just kind of do stuff, not talk about it, and just kind of show the results to people. But for me, it kind of worked the opposite way, where I created stuff, simple stuff like business cards. I remember I created a case for for my phone, which had my logo on it, simple logo, which I got done from like Fiverr or something like that at that time. And I put that on a phone, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is my brand now. And I showed that to all my friends and all my family. That just kind of gave another set of accountable people to me, or I felt that way.
Mm.
Like people are expecting something, and that's what motivated me.
Gotcha.
So that I put this out there for myself. I'm gonna do this.
Mm.
I did the same with like business cards next. I did the same with like you just little milestones that you have, and just putting that out there, and just sharing more of your experience in that way. Just kind of takes you from point A to point B. And you don't just and you so that's what worked for me. And I it's not a cliched answer, but I think
Right.
that'll be different for everyone. Some people
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
just kind of do the work and show it at the end of the day, and props to you for that, but you got to look at what motivates you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ali,
Yeah, one example that I like to give, especially when I'm training new hires, is that I ask them what their goals are, why they're working here, what they want to accomplish in 6 months, a year, whatever it may be. So when they tell me that, I ask them, okay, what happens if you don't get to that? What happens if you continually hit a wall? And they give me different answers. And the example that I use for that is saying that, okay, you're here at the office. If you want to go home, Your goal is to get home. When you leave out of here, let's say you start driving and the road you're on gets blocked. There's construction. Are you just going to sit there and wait, or are you going to take another road? And let's say go to the next one and a tree fell down. Are you going to sit there and give up and not go home? Or are you going to find another route? So you get what I'm getting at, right? So
Yeah.
there are going to be problems. There are going to be issues. You have to continuously keep the goal in mind and figure out a different way to get there. So if you're just giving up as soon as like the first or second problem happens, then maybe it's not for you. Maybe you're not trying to go home.
I'm actually very interested in this conversation because, as you know, I've been telling you that I'm going to write a screenplay for the past maybe 6-7 years, and 6-7 years later, I am 9 pages into my first feature film.
Yeah, I mean, I asked the question for you because I knew you were nervous. I'm successful, man.
The thing is, like,
I'm successful.
I
asked it for you, bro.
The thing is, like, over the years. Sorry, there's a joke.
No, I was gonna say I want to see a tweet tonight that says I am writing a screenplay.
Yes.
But you know, the thing is, like, I over the years, like that aside, over the years, whenever there's been a big transition in my life, even with this whole freelance thing, it's always come at a point where I'm like, I just feel, I don't want to use the word happy, but I just feel very, I feel very stuck. I guess is the right word. You know, I don't enjoy kind of what I'm doing. I don't enjoy where I am, and you know, that's ranged from being in almost severe depression to like just not being comfortable. Like recently, like with the Muslim Vibe, and I'm still going to be doing work for them. It's not like I'm quitting completely, but like with the Muslim Vibe, like it wasn't like they were unfair to me or you know there was anything wrong there, but I just felt like something needed to change, you know. And what I realized was like and hopefully we'll speak about this toward the end, but I like 5-6 years ago, I sat down and asked myself, what do I want to do eventually? And the thing I always came to was I want to be a full-time freelancer. So I knew that I had to work towards it because it's something I'd always wanted to do. And I think what scared me, Hasnain, the most is I read this book recently, which I recommend to all you guys, called Get Things Done. I forgot who the author is, but if you just search for it on Amazon, it's like a red book with in yellow, it just says Get Things Done, 3 lines. You can't miss it. But in the beginning, it's a whole book about procrastination. In the beginning, it was saying the reason you procrastinate is because you have low self-esteem. The reason you push something off is because you don't believe really that you're good enough to do it, or you don't actually want to do it. So I think the scariest question for me to ask myself and for you to ask yourself is, if you're not making that film, do you really want to make the film? Is that the film you want to make? Maybe there's another film you want to make. Maybe you're not even good at, or maybe filmmaking itself is not your passion at all. You know, I think that not to put you down and change your life and give you like
listen, I don't mind being a stay-at-home dad. Yeah, I don't mind staying at home, letting the wife work, do her thing.
But I think for me that's what procrastination is. It's almost like a pointer to a bigger problem. It might not even be to do with your work. It might be to do with yourself. You know, all of us procrastinate, and the question is why. For me, honestly, I think it's linked to kind of like self-esteem and believing you can do it. I think that's the problem that I have, but it might differ from person to person.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. That a good example that comes to my mind for that is, you know, in our world, with new means of social media, right? Reels and TikTok and all these advertising are getting super huge. And Ali, I'm sure you know you can speak to this a lot more than I can, but I'm not the type of person that likes to be in front of the camera all the time, right? So it's, you know, that
I was actually very surprised you agreed to do this, by the way.
So yeah, so it's just, you know, just from that aspect of it, it's sometimes stuff holds you back, you know, but you work around it. There's other ways for me to manage and grow my business. I mean, I will probably make some reels at some point and TikToks, and I need to get over that, right? It's just kind of part of the evolution. But you know, you just find ways to do it, and and you know, for me, what it works is just kind of sharing my journey with, you know, people that, you know, are cheerleaders or supporters, and you know, that uplifts me.
I think it's part of that holding, making sure you're held accountable to more. Like even me now, I used to have a separate Instagram account for my freelance work, and I've basically deleted that, and I'm just sharing it on my main account. And to me, that's scary, because my main account, I feel like I'm held to a higher level of accountability because I built that account on poetry. So whenever I share a video, has to be good. It can't just be like a subpar,
Yeah.
looking video. And for me to say, hey, I made this, and so I'm basically now holding myself accountable to myself by putting it out there to people and saying, hey, I made this. So because I do that, I can't make something that's subpar or that I think is bad, because ultimately I'm showing it to all these people and saying this is mine. So I think that's very important. I did want to move on to another part of this conversation, which is about our relationship to money. And I think that it is an interesting conversation to have because Hasnain's smiling away there. I think it is an interesting conversation to have because, like, we've been speaking about business and wealth and building wealth, and again, like, I'll be honest with you, I'm obsessed with making money. But when I say I'm obsessed with making money, it's not from a side of, oh, I'm obsessed with making money because I want to buy a Lamborghini or live in luxury. For me, it's not about that. So my question is money and wealth a bad thing? All of us here like pursue money for a living. That is what we do, be it through entrepreneurship or be it through Hasnain, your job as well. Is money and wealth a bad thing? And how can we refine that mentality that it is a bad thing, Islamically and spiritually?
Who's going first?
Who's going?
Ali, go for it.
I look at money as a tool more than anything else.
Yeah.
Just like you say, shoes.
Mhm.
Is it bad to have shoes? Is it bad to have clothing? Is it bad to have a fan when you're hot, like right now? So is it bad to have money? No, you need to have money. And I think Islamically, it also says that strive to get as much money as you can in a way. I think I'm not, don't fully quote me on that, but
All right,
New
Sheikh
hadith,
Ali.
new hadith right there.
yeah, new hadith. No, that I think the hadith that I'm referring to is where it says that live your life as you're going to live here forever,
As if you're going to live forever, and
be prepared if you
prepare for this life as if you're going to live forever, and prepare
Yeah.
for the next if you're going to die tomorrow.
Exactly. So if you're going to live forever, then you're going to need a lot of money. So I don't think it's a bad thing to go for money and strive hard and try to make it. But at the same time, if you don't get it, I don't think you should go into depression either, because there's another hadith where it says, "What's for you will find you." So that actually stays in the back of my mind a lot whenever I miss a deal and something doesn't go through the way I wanted it to go through. Then I just kind of take a step back and say, okay, you know what? If it was for me, it would have happened. It's not for me. I did what I could. I strived for it, and it didn't happen. Okay, move on to the next thing.
Yeah, 100%. And even me, like personally, I've been in situations where clients turn me down or hasn't worked out, which was a good deal, and then I find a better deal that has come my way a month or so later. So I think having that mentality of pursuing rizq but not being attached to rizq in that way, I think is so important. And even like as you know, when it comes to business, you spend a lot of money on equipment, on stuff like that as well. And I think that's definitely one thing that I'm trying to train myself to do is, it's just, to me, it's just when money leaves your account and you invest in something, it's just money leaving. It's just money. It's just digits on the screen, right? That's all it is. That's how you got to think about it, because you're certain that God will take care of you. Aarish, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say. So I mean, from I don't want to talk about hadith without quoting like the exact reference. I'm happy to send it to you like after that.
Ali, learn from Aarish.
No. Sorry, I'm not talking about myself. But there is. I recently came across hadith. Just because I think about this stuff. I try to think about this stuff as much as I can. But we have a hadith that talks about how the day should be broken out as well, or how it's recommended. And it talks about, for example, spend a part of your day with in terms of looking after your future and your present, in terms of that's your risk part. A certain part can be dedicated towards your pleasure, right? Like food, drinking, spending time with family, etc. And the other time is obviously devoted to Allah. And just in terms of business, obviously, if you are gonna plan your life out that way, you have much more control for yourself to do that and stay within those, I wouldn't say guidelines, but maybe recommendations, right? So that being one. But I think what that also tells me is it is to look after and to be and to do something that is going to take care of your now and your future, and not future from in terms of like the anxiety and worrying about where things are going to lead me to. I think it's nowhere that it's discouraged, except, or rather I interpret it as it's encouraged for you to do the best. And and again, as Ali mentioned, just kind of get that tool, and and you can use it as a big problem solving initiative. For me, is like I have a lot of I have a lot of family and I have a lot of connections, especially back home, which can really benefit if I have more money, right? Just as it's as simple as that. You could be connected to organizations or charities or whatever, whatever it may be, and you can use it. You can use it for that or for whatever reasons that are halal and applicable to you. You use it for travel, like whatever you want. You want to, but it is again a tool for what you want to do. I do think being too obsessed with there's also a similar hadith. Again, happy to send the reference later on, where like wealth is a burden, and just to think about it, just in terms of that, could be it's one of the biggest burdens a man can have, from that point of view. But it's totally okay to look after yourselves and look and you earn it so you can spend it and not just store it away.
I think
Before we move on to the next thing, I just remembered actually while he was talking, there's another hadith by Zig Ziglar. I don't know if you guys have heard of him or not.
I have, yeah. He's a great writer.
Check the center of this one.
So he says that money isn't everything, but it ranks right up there with oxygen.
It's true. It's true. And I think,
you just need it.
It's funny because like, I'm sure all of us here have been like close to the edge when it comes to money. All of us had difficult upbringings, and I've been in situations not even too long ago where I've been so broke, and there's a sense of like your pride is hurt, when you can't provide, when you have to message a relative and say, hey, can I have £50 because I need to buy some groceries and put gas in my car. And I remember the last time that kind of happened to me, I looked at myself and I was like, I'm never, inshallah, but this is, Allah knows best. I'm never going to be in the situation again. I made a promise to myself, I'm never going to be in the situation again. And since that day, I have, fought to not be in that situation. I've struggled to not be in that situation because there is no, as we know, there's another hadith from Ali Islam where he says if poverty was a man, he would kill him. Right. And for me, that's literally how I see my grind. I see it as a war against poverty, as a boxing match against poverty, and just trying to escape as much as possible, because poverty is one of the most horrible things you can go through, and we know so many of us are suffering in the world when it comes to poverty, not even back home, but even here in America right now with coronavirus. So many people are in difficulty, and ultimately when you have money, you have wealth, and we know that's all in the hands of God, obviously. When you have money and have wealth, not only can you support your own, but you can also support those in need around you in many different ways, right? And just having that being in that situation where you're okay, and you're not, everyone's kind of worried about money, I guess, in some ways, but you're not too worried about money. Your mindset is stronger. You don't feel like you don't feel like you're downtrodden. And unfortunately, that is one of the most horrible things about poverty, is you feel horrible. You feel like you can't buy milk or buy food for tomorrow or put gas in the car, and it really is a horrible situation to be in. So for me, it is definitely that perspective.
Right. And I would say, I'm not talking about anyone's lifestyle in particular too, but right, you can be making a good amount of money for people that are living comparable lifestyle to you in a similar state, but it's it's about spending habits too. Like I said, someone can be making $10,000 a month, but spending $9,800 and and just managing that. I mean, so it's a little bit about from that perspective too. And I think Ali kind of mentioned this in the beginning, just kind of living at, I don't know if there's a rule or law, there's a specific one, but 70% rule or the 75% rule. But yeah, I mean, just just good things to keep in mind.
Hasnain, sorry, I didn't. I know you got a very complex answer to this question. Money.
It's as somebody who chooses dunya over deen, I have to.
That's one of the worst things I've heard in this podcast, Hasnain. Yes, I choose dunya over deen. Yes, that's me.
I was joking, but as somebody like what Nouri, what you said, growing up in a situation where many of us have grown up, where my father would work from Fajr till midnight and make $20 a day. Going from that to where we are today, you strive to constantly work, right? Money has, like, becoming wealthy and money is how we judge happiness. It's the criteria of success and happiness. Unfortunately, that's kind of what I'm seeing on my end. So is money a good thing? It depends. It can be a tool to be good or to be bad. It can be a tool where a government is spending billions of dollars to go bomb a country, and it can be a tool for a government to provide healthcare for the people. It can be a tool for somebody like me to go build a mosque or build a well somewhere because alhamdulillah God's giving me something, or it could be something that I go and just ridiculously spend elsewhere. I think it comes down to do two things: social responsibility that you have, that what God gives you, what are you giving back in His name? So, and the second one is being God conscious. So it's okay to spend what you want to spend. Are you God conscious in what you're spending? It's okay to hustle to make $1 million, but this is given to you. What are you going to give back, right? One thing that I read online, I'm not going to name the sheikh or whatnot, you guys probably know, and it's like, if you're going to do business, if you want a business transaction, do it through God. What are you going to give to Him to get back? That's the best thing you can do. So that's kind of how I look at money. It's just like you choose what you do with it. Are you going to do it? Are you going to do it bad? Or are you going to do good? And I think majority of people in this world want to do good with it.
Yeah,
so I choose Deen over dunya at the end.
But I think just kind of like winding down, I think like anyone who's listening to this who might be struggling or trying to build something, I think all of us here wish the best for everyone. I want everyone to be successful. I remember once I worked with someone who said, I want we were speaking about like prices or whatever, and he said, I want you guys to be millionaires. That's what I want. I want to pay you guys the best. And that's even a mentality that I have. Whenever I have to hire someone for a job, I always try to overpay them because I feel like that is so important. And I hope that Allah blesses our community and those around us with abundant rizq, because there are a few greater blessings apart from, I guess, health and stuff like that. Just winding down, I wanted to ask you guys, how does one build a successful business? And just like leading into that, Ali, I don't want you to tell us a story of driving to New York. You don't have to get too personal if you don't want to, but I think you've told me that story a few times. I just find it so inspiring, and I think in that, just speak about how believing in something can actually help it manifest, because that's something I've seen in my life as well. Tell us a story and give us like the lesson of it.
Oh man.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Go ahead.
I'm trying to think of where to start and how to tell it. Because I've never actually told it publicly. I've only told it to you guys.
You basically, you left DC to go to New York, right? That was your, and you were looking for a job. Just
and we only have 2 million. We only have 2 million followers anyway, so it's not really gonna get out there, bro. Don't worry about it.
So when I was living in DC, during my mid-20s, one of the things that I wanted to do was go to a brand new city where I didn't know anyone, and try to start from scratch, because most people, wherever they're born is where they live. They have familiarity with their family, their friends, their relatives and everything, and then also with their community. So you grow up and you're given a house by your parents, and then you go get a job, and then you start living on your own and so forth. So we all did that. Now I got to a point in DC where, okay, I've done this. I've got a condo, I've got a car, I've got everything all set up. Now what? So I quit my job and I decided
this was a well-paying job, right?
Yeah, I was working for Citigroup. So I quit my job. I packed whatever I could into my car and I drove up to New York without knowing anyone, without having a job, without having a place to stay, because I wanted to see how long it would take me to start from scratch and build myself up. It was, I don't know, I guess a social experiment for myself, also a challenge to myself. And then another thing that I thought about when I was in the 20s was I wanted to have a business with my name on it. Because growing up, you would see different names, for example, J.G. Wentworth and this and that, the other, whatever, right? So that was, I don't know why I got J.G. Wentworth. That was the only name I could think of. But all these different people that weren't Pakistani. Yeah, Morgan Stanley, all these, right? So they weren't Pakistani names, they weren't Muslim names. And I was like, why not have a Muslim name on a business, right? So that was another thought process behind it. So when I got to New York, I lived out of my car for about 2 weeks because I didn't have a place to stay. And I got a job and I started working the very first job that I got, which paid me $274 and some change a week in New York City. So you can't do anything with that. So I continued working that job while I was looking for another job. I would go to the gym to shower, get ready, put my suit on and show up to work. Then I would also take my bag to my car and drop it off so people wouldn't know that I was, going to the gym to change.
But
so kind of like
the parking you were paying is basically like rent money, right? In New York City.
Yeah. So kind of like the pursuit of happiness, except, I didn't have a kid with me and I was just kind of doing it as an experiment to see how it would work. And I wanted to take the money that I earned there in New York and grow from there. And that's what I did. So then I rented a room in Queens, not too far from where you live, Stan.
No disclaimer, bro. I don't want people to know where I live. Everybody knows where I live.
Yeah, we all know.
It's not rocket science, bro.
So then I got my first job. Then I got my second job, which paid me $500. Then I got a week. Then I got my third job, which paid me even more. And then I started a business with a business partner, and things didn't work out because he was actually bipolar, and our whole business, like legitimately bipolar, and the whole business just fell apart. So I'm back to square one. I have to go back and get another job to get going again.
Wow.
So then I go back and get another job. Then I get another one that's better paying and that's a better job. And then I restart my company. And then I also start another company in transport, which I built up from the ground. And then I ended up selling that. Stan helped me many times with that.
Let's not even go into those stories.
Let's not go into that. He was there so many times
stories.
when I needed him. So now I have the business that I'm telling you guys about with the advertising, which is what I actually want to do. So that's kind of how I got here. And then now with the pandemic, I was like, okay, I've done all this in Manhattan, in New York. And what's the next biggest challenge? The next biggest challenge is go to a country where you don't know the culture or the language and do it there. So that's why I'm in Colombia now. So all this to say that you can change what you're doing, change the direction of your life, think about what you want to do, have that goal in mind, and continuously work towards it regardless of what happens and what comes your way. And eventually you can get there with the help of God, of course.
Ali, you should become a motivational speaker. Honestly, I think it's something you haven't explored yet. But what would you say? What would you say is the importance of like imagining something and then manifesting it? I remember there was a clip I was watching. It's quite a viral clip. I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's of Jim Carrey speaking about his grind and his success. It was like maybe 95 and 96 something, and he goes, "I wrote myself a check for $1 million." And I folded that check up and I dated it 5 years from now and I put it in my pocket. And then 5 years later, he got paid for, I think it was Ace Ventura or something else to the same amount. And like, I haven't written $1 million check to myself at all. But I can definitely say the other day, I was literally just going through a 5-year plan that I wrote 5 years ago. And literally everything that I'd written it and just forgotten about it and just like kind of put it away. But everything that I'd written down had transpired. I talked about, for example, building a freelance business. I talked about becoming freelancing. I'd even talked about becoming a freelance full time, and that kind of manifested itself. So I think it's so important to essentially, imagine something and then it manifests itself. How does that law work with you? And what can you tell us about the importance of that?
It definitely works. For example, me being in Colombia, when I came here last year, I found out that not many people know about Imam Hussein. So I thought to myself, okay, one day I'm going to come back and talk about Imam Hussein and have a team maybe here for Who's Hussein. And I remember sitting in the plane, taking off, getting ready to leave. And I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone. I was like, hey, listen, one day I'm going to come back and do that. One day.
How long ago was this?
That was last year. I think it was December. But I didn't know what was going to happen this fast, right? Another thing, going back into my early 20s again, I was at a movie theater and all these names were going up, all these names at the end of the movie. And I was like, you know what? It would be great if my name went up one day too. I want my name to go up on a movie theater. And then that happened, right? So whatever you manifest, have positivity towards it, think about it, keep it as a goal. A lot of times you can just write it down on your mirror in the bathroom. So every day you go to brush your teeth in the morning and the night, hopefully, unlike Hasnain. I'm just joking. You see it at least twice a day, right? And then you can also have your goals in different places where you know you're going to see those goals, and you think about them every single day, and you do something. It doesn't have to be 0 to 100. It could be just like a small portion, and you do that every single day. And just like a penny adds up to $1, your small steps that you take will add up to your goal, and you'll get to where you want to be.
Yeah, I think it's so important. I remember a good friend of mine told me to literally, like, goes, right, however much you want to make a month down, close it, and then just kind of like put it away. I did that like maybe 2 years ago, and then I a few months ago I was realizing that it hasn't actually become far off from that. So I feel like, writing things down and believing in them is so important. I don't know if there's any sort of Islamic backing to that, but it is so important. Aarish, how does one build a successful business?
You just have to baby step it, and vision, end goals, all that kind of stuff is very important, but you just have to be a little bit, for lack of better terms, maybe a little bit numb to failure and very open to pivoting. So it's just I talk about my background in tailoring, my families and things like that. But going into that in a field which you would think is so vastly technical, and it seems like you would need to have spend generations and generations of time for it, to be making money into that on a weekly basis. But it's you just, any setbacks that you may have had in the beginning, you just got to keep going with it, and you just have to sometimes put yourself in a mindset that's fine. This went wrong, but there's going to be I have a new customer rating, or I have a new relationship. I have a new way of handling business, or a new way of working with people that I want to work with, for example. So that's what kind of keeps you going. And it's if you thought you're going to start this business, and then you're going to have people just from this community or whatever it may be just ready to line up for you, but it doesn't always quite work out. And just in terms of our business, I thought I was gonna be pretty involved with just suits like that in the community, right? It's just gonna be a big advantage for us. But maybe I would say that's not even like 10 to 15% of my business now. But so you just have to be able to pivot with it in all different directions. I work with people now, for example, that you wouldn't ever imagine wanting good suits if you are not into the business, like people that own, for example, construction businesses, right? One of my best customers is someone like that. It's they are in jeans and in construction gear all day, but they just have a hobby for it, and it's just so you just never know where risk comes from. But you just have to be open to it. You have to be open to pivoting in your sales strategy and all different types of strategies, and just go about it from there, and just be flexible and just be numb to like failure in that sense.
Beautiful, very important advice. As we wind down, Hasnain, any parting words of wisdom? How does someone build a successful business and make it in their job?
Man, I'm still building
in their job.
Because I just realized that you're still employed. But yeah,
I don't know, man. Keep your head down, keep going, man. I don't know.
Keep going, inshallah. Good word of advice. Aarish, really appreciate you taking for your time. So if anyone wants to find out more about the Tailor Foundation, follow your work, or even buy a suit, where can they reach out to you, and where can they do so?
Sure. We're on Instagram at the Tailored Foundation. If you want to reach out to me personally, Aarish, Aarish, at thetailoredfoundation.com. And that's probably the best way. And then, if you'd like the phone number, I'm happy to share that as well. But I'd rather you contact me the other way.
Sounds good. Aarish, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Hassan.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
And that was a really wonderful episode with my good friend Aarish Mustafa of the Tailor Foundation. If you haven't checked out his suits yet, please do so. I can say firsthand, and I'm not just saying this because he's my friend, I'm saying it because I'm being honest, his suits are absolutely fantastic. Do check out the Tailor Foundation and check out his wonderful suits. You definitely need one in your collection. Thanks so much for joining us on this episode. If you benefited from it, please do share it with your friends and family. Share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook. In fact, take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, and tag 786 Boulevard, myself, Hasnain Ali, and we'll repost it for you, inshallah. Let us know that you're listening. And please don't forget to subscribe. We are releasing an episode every weekday, every week on a Sunday. And we have some really fantastic guests lined up. So please do stick with us. Thank you for joining us here once again over at 786 Boulevard.